Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Shelly, and today I want to talk about some celiac tips that I wish I knew when I was first diagnosed. And if you guys don't know my story, basically I was diagnosed 9 years ago, and it's been a long journey along the way learning things. And so I thought I would make this video for people who are newly diagnosed, or they have a gluten allergy or gluten intolerance and they just want more knowledge on things that you should know. That, like, if I had somebody like a big sister to tell me these things, I would have saved a lot of pain in my belly. So let's get. So the first step, which when you're diagnosed, the doctors, well, my doctor gave me a sheet and referred me to a dietitian, and they did let me know to do this, but some doctors may not tell you that you need to get your own gluten-free pots and pans and utensils, and you need to get your own toaster and trays. If the trays that you're going to use, if you cook directly on them, you need to get a new tray, because gluten can live on the surfaces of those metals or pans, and in the toaster it's kind of impossible to remove all the little crumbs that could cling to each item that you put in your toaster. So first thing you need to do is get new toaster, new pots, new pans. And when I was diagnosed, I was 18, so I still lived with my parents. And basically we went, bought all the things, and then my mom made a drawer in the pantry that was just for gluten-free. That was like my drawer. So that's my second tip. Most people live with other people. If you live by yourself, then you can go through your pantry right now, throw away anything that has gluten in it, and then you'll know that everything in your house is gluten-free. That would be a perfect world, but I know majority of people live with other people, and I would say the best thing that you can do is at least make a designated area for yourself in your pantry, especially in the beginning when you're figuring out what's gluten-free, what's not, and it's best to just have all the stuff you can have in one spot so you don't have to think twice about, like, is that really gluten-free? So yeah, I had my own gluten-free drawer and my own pots and pans and toaster, and yeah, that definitely helps things. Right now, like in my pantry, some things are like all the chips are together, some of those chips have gluten, but I'm pretty, like, I know what I can and can't have, and plus I don't eat a lot of chips anyways. But yeah, I do have like a shelf in there that has all the gluten-free pastas and rice and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely helpful to divide your food away from the rest of the family or your roommates. Now, the next thing I wish I knew is not to trust anybody. So if you go to a restaurant and you're talking to the waitress and you're like, I need to be gluten-free. Well, first off, don't eat anywhere that doesn't have a gluten-free menu, because that right there is an accident waiting to happen. Go places that are aware of allergies, either have a gluten-free menu or they have things marked on the menu that can be made gluten-free. And then at that point, if you talk to the server and there's some red flags to look out for. If it's like something that's gluten-free, like, and it doesn't have, say it's a salad and it doesn't have gluten, it doesn't have croutons, and you say, oh, is this gluten-free? Or you ask and they go, oh, there's milk in it, so I don't think it's gluten-free. If they think that milk is gluten, then you shouldn't eat there. I don't know how many times that has happened to me where they think that cheese or milk is gluten. That is a big problem, because then they think that gluten is not gluten and you're gonna get sick. So avoid, if the waitresses don't know what they're talking about, odds are your food's gonna get messed up. Okay. Secondly, you want to make sure that wherever you're ordering from, they have a separate area, like a preparation area for the gluten-free food. Ask how they prepare things. If you're ordering like a steak and mashed potatoes, Ask, does anything else go on the grill? Do you grill anything else on the grill? What seasonings do you use? Ask, is there anything breaded made on the same spot? If it's like a breakfast place and you're ordering eggs, ask, do you make pancakes in the same spot as the eggs? You have to think ahead. You have to kind of think like a chef. You have to think, if you're at home and you had a griddle, what would you make everything on the griddle? Probably. So at a restaurant, it's going to be the same way. So you need to think ahead. Just like if you order French fries, if that place also has chicken tenders on the menu or onion rings, you should ask them, do you have a dedicated gluten-free fryer? Or do you have a dedicated fryer for just your French fries? And if they do not, then that means that there's particles of gluten that is sitting in the oil from everything else that they fry. Same for Mexican places. If they have fried flour tortillas or taco shells, and they also have the tortilla chips and they're corn, but if they fry them in the same oil, they're contaminated. So you definitely need to ask questions, and if they have a separate preparation area, that's preferred. If not, if you're not, like, I'm super sensitive, I would just pass. But if you're not super duper sensitive, then I would at least ask them for a glove change and to use a clean pan, and make them aware that you're like severely, I just say I'm severely allergic. I don't say celiac, because 90% of people don't even know what that celiac means, but they take a severe allergy more serious. So yeah, definitely stress how allergic you are. Ask questions, talk to the manager, sometimes restaurants will send out the chef and they'll prepare your food, just to make sure it doesn't get messed up. And yeah, let's think of, and the other tip that I've discovered recently is when you're buying packaged products, anything, whether it's chips, whether it's pastas, if it says certified gluten-free, that does not mean that it is 100% gluten-free. So obviously, if you're new to the gluten-free space, you probably don't know that if an item just says gluten-free on the label, that means it can have up to 20 parts per million of gluten in it legally, and they can still label it gluten-free. Now, if it says certified gluten-free, that product has to have less than 10 parts per million of gluten per serving. Now, I always, for all these years, thought certified gluten-free meant like for sure, gluten-free, everything's tested, and it's safe. Now, my celiac, my IgA transglutaminase level never went negative until recently when I discovered this about the processed foods, whether it's seasonings, chips, which I don't even really eat. I was carnivore for a long time and I was still sick because seasonings were making me sick. But anyways, that was a side note. Basically, if it's certified gluten-free, that basically means that the company mailed in a sample or they tested at their own lab. That sample had less than 10 parts per million of gluten, and that means that certified gluten-free, the company, is going to come once a year and look at your manufacturing and practices and see how you're handling things. And 4 times a year you have to send samples. So there's a lot of room for error in these manufacturing facilities if they're only getting checked up on 4 times per year by the certified gluten-free people. And most of these facilities also process gluten products. So say you're buying Simple Mills cookies, which I was buying previously. They make regular cookies on the same lines. Other companies, multiple companies use co-packers that pack and make your product. And there are other companies that pay the manufacturer of Simple Mills cookies that are supposed to be gluten-free to make regular gluten-free cookies. So now all these companies say they go through extensive allergen cleaning after every batch, and they clean all the lines, and it's really impossible to clean every inch of the line. And how I've discovered this is I've gotten sick from several certified gluten-free products. And as soon as I removed everything that was not made in a dedicated gluten-free facility, that's when my celiac level finally went negative, which also, if you're new to the whole celiac world, if you were just diagnosed, your transglutaminase IgA is probably pretty high. It's probably above 20. Now, when you remove gluten, and those are, the transglutaminase IgA is your body's attacking itself because there's gluten in your system. And so when you don't have any gluten in your system, those antibodies should go to less than 20. They should be not there. So if me being gluten-free all these years, my level should have gone lower, but it would always stay in like 25 to 35 range, which means I was getting gluten from somewhere. And I was so, on top of everything, I did keto for a long time. I made a lot of my own products, but I would also buy things. And then I did carnivore for a long time, but I would still buy packaged like cheeses and certain packaged meats and seasonings. And even on carnivore, I was still testing positive for celiac. Now, I'm not doing carnivore anymore, but I now got my celiac level negative, and that's, like I said, every company that I purchased from, I have called, or it says on their website that they're a dedicated gluten-free. So, and I know you're gonna think this is a pretty extreme measure to go to, but if you are trying to heal and your celiac level is still positive, then I highly suggest that you get to the point like me and you figure out all the companies that you can trust and then just go about your life like that. And I will say, I know this is hard. A lot of people don't have time to deal with this because there's so many items that are just, they're all made in a facility with wheat. Like even just marinara sauce. I called 10 companies and all of them were manufactured in a facility with wheat. So far I've only found one company that it's called Jovial, and they have crushed tomatoes in a jar, and it's technically not marinara, but you can season it yourself. But yeah, so in the process of all of this, I've been calling all these companies, and I thought I would make a ebook to just, kind of explain the things that I've learned and give you lists of all the companies that you can actually trust that are dedicated gluten-free companies. And then that saves you guys the time and the hassle of calling all these companies because it's it's not very fun. And sometimes you really have to dig at them. Like they're very vague and they just tell you that, they're allergen procedures, they follow the laws and this and that. And unfortunately the laws aren't very safe, because if you eat all this gluten-free stuff and it all has 20 parts per million per serving, you're gonna have a stomach, like you're gonna be sick from that. And so yeah, this is for the people who are still, well, if you're new, you're obviously still probably sick. But over time, if you go gluten-free and not like you're buying certified gluten-free things, but you don't know if it's in a facility that manufactures wheat, if over time, like over 6 months, you're still not doing great, I would highly recommend only buying the dedicated gluten-free items. Another tip that I have is sometimes you just want to eat before you go somewhere. It's just easier that way, because if for some reason your food gets messed up and you end up not trusting the place that you're going to for dinner, at least you've already eaten something and you can eat something else when you get back home. Or if it's at somebody's house, you can offer to bring a side dish that is gluten-free, and that at least you'll have that safety of eating your own food at the party. Also, another thing, if you have family members or friends who want to make you something gluten-free and you don't want to hurt their feelings, so you eat it and you're not sure if they understand the whole gluten-free, just don't do that. Your health is important, and if you know someone's not 100% or you don't trust them, or you know they're going to use the same pans that they bake a regular cake in, then just be honest with them, because there's no reason for you to get sick, and your friend doesn't want you to get sick either. They're just trying to be nice for you. Save yourself the hassle of pleasing other people and just look out for yourself and say, you know what, it's okay, you don't have to make me anything, I'll bring my own dessert, or I'll bring something else. And yeah, that's what I do, because I don't really trust anyone in my family with my food, honestly. Yeah, it's really hard to trust anybody knowing how sick that I get. So yeah, I feel like that's my number one thing. Trust nobody but yourself. You double check everything, and I know that all this information can be overwhelming if you were just diagnosed, but it's all going to be like second nature sooner than later. You're going to get the hang of it, and it's going to be easy, and you're not going to have to do all this research, and you're going to have your go-to places that you can eat at and that you trust, and the people that work there are probably going to remember you because you have an allergy and you ask them about it, and things will get easier. And it's just like anything, you have to adjust and adapt, and don't dwell on what you're missing out on, because you just have to know, like, this is your life and you're not gonna have gluten anymore. That's just, you're gonna get sick if you have it. So don't think that you're missing out. Just think, bring other things, have other things that make you happy, find replacements for everything that you enjoy, and don't let it get you down. Because like for me, like I know how sick I get. Like I literally, now when I have gluten 9 years later, I literally will be in the hospital. The last time a restaurant gave me a regular waffle instead of a gluten-free waffle, I literally threw up until I was throwing up blood and I tore my esophagus. It's that bad. So like, and I literally felt like I was dying. Like if you'd asked me if I was gonna live tomorrow, I would say no. Like I couldn't even stand up straight, dizzy, head throbbing, like it's bad. So when I think of that, like, no thank you. I am never gonna bother cheating or trying to have any gluten. This is just how my life is. These are the cards God gave me. And yeah, you just have to have a better attitude about it, because dwelling on what you're missing out on, that's just gonna ruin your time and ruin the people you're with's time. So try not to be upset. I know I was crying at first when I was diagnosed, because I was a pastry chef. I was in culinary school about to graduate and I was diagnosed. So that was like a huge hit, because, you know, now I can't even work with the flour because it makes me too sick. Just mixing with the flour, you breathe it and that makes me sick. So yeah, I mean, everything happens for a reason, but if you're just diagnosed, I'm with you. I feel your pain. And don't worry, things are gonna get better, and you got this. And I'm gonna make that ebook, and that should be helpful for all you celiacs. And please, if you enjoy this video, give me a like and subscribe. I'm gonna have many more gluten-free videos to come, and I look forward to chatting with you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.